It's also important to note that an overarching limitation of all observational research is the subjectivity of researchers. The researchers could observe something and interpret that however they want to. This limitation can be evaluated in the final report. If the observations were made without bias, the final report will be believable, or vraisemblance. I think I said that totally wrong. But what this word means is that what you're reading is believable. It lines up with what's really going on out in the world. Another overarching limitation is chance. Because of chance, researchers could observe an event in a location that doesn't usually happen, and so they could put it in their final report, and that just doesn't line up with what really happens out there. For example, like someone smoking in a hospital. That doesn't usually happen, and if a researcher happened to be there at the hospital and observe it, put in the final report, it just wouldn't seem believable. This can be addressed by having multiple observers making multiple observations at multiple times. This can help to filter out oddball occurrences. Observational data is often recorded in the form of field notes. Field notes range from being free-form, open reflections of the researcher to more rigid notes where researchers sort of fill out blanks on a worksheet. Field notes describe the settings, the people, the context, what people are doing, what they're talking about, and so on. Usually there's a space in field notes that have objective descriptions of what's going on, and also have a space for the researcher's subjective interpretation of those objective descriptions. When making observations, it's important to first choose the setting. The setting should be relevant to answering the research questions. After picking the setting, the researcher should gain entry or permission to make observations. Now, if the observations are taking place in a total public area, like a public park, there's really no need to get permission to make observations. But if the place is in a more private setting, like a college campus, you may need to get permission from the community's gatekeepers, who are leaders that have the authority to let you in to do your study. Building rapport with the community's gatekeepers may take time, but regardless of where you're planning to make observations, you must detail all of this information in your IRB application. Let's talk about documents and artifacts. There are various types of documents, both hard copy and electronic, that could be used in a qualitative study in order to answer a particular research question. These documents might include public records like newspapers, websites, policy manuals, meeting minutes, and so on, or personal documents like a participant's journals, Facebook pages, text messages, letters, emails, and also artifacts, which are things that give insight about a person's culture, how they lived, what they valued, and so on, like jewelry, pottery, clothing, furniture, their tombstones even, and so on. The advantages of using documents and artifacts as qualitative data is that they're less time consuming to collect. It doesn't take long to go on the internet and pull up a document, or to go to the public library and get some public documents. They're also widely available. Again, internet, very, very available. The library, different public places, or if people are willing to give you their private documents like letters, emails, stuff like that. It's also very cost effective. It's usually free to get the documents and artifacts, or pretty cheap. And these documents are exact. There are exact names, times, dates, a lot of exact information on documents and artifacts. There are also disadvantages such as insufficient detail. Sometimes documents and artifacts don't have the depth of detail that you're looking for to answer your research questions. They also may be unavailable. Maybe people don't want to let you see their personal documents like their Facebook page or letters, emails for your study. Also, there may be researcher selection bias. This is when researchers may, in their bias, choose to select what documents to include or exclude from the research, and they may put a little bias twist on it. Finally, let's talk about triangulation. Although most qualitative studies include interviews, they should also include other types of data as well. Including several types of data is known as data triangulation. Data triangulation helps to increase the validity or accuracy of research findings. For example, let's say that a qualitative study included interviews and observations. If the findings from the interviews are similar to the findings from the observations, then the study's findings seem more valid. When multiple forms of data reflect each other, then the findings have more credit given to them.